Good afternoon, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. This is where you'll meet some of the most talented, intelligent, and creative people who come to share tips, resources, and knowledge on various topics. The guests come from many industries: education, music, television, theater, fashion, culinary arts, and so much more. Join me in welcoming my guest, Miranda Wilson. Welcome, Miranda.
Hi, thanks for having me, Kelly.
I'm excited about you being here. Before we get into our conversation, I would actually like to read a little bit about Miranda. She has a very illustrious career using that voice of hers. So let me read a little bit about it. Miranda has been a voice in San Francisco Bay Area radio industry for 30 years, working for heritage stations KSOL, KDIA, 18 years as midday host at Smooth Jazz KKSF 103.7, host of the Sunday Morning Inspiration on KBLX 102.9, and currently midday host at WSBZ 106.3, the Seabreeze in Destin, Florida. Miranda is also a two-time winner of the Golden Gate chapter of American Women in Radio and Television as Best Midday Host, and as a member of the SAG-AFTRA, AFTRA, she's active in the market and nationally as a voiceover actress. So when we get into more of the conversation, she'll talk more about her voiceover work, and then she'll talk a lot about her career in radio. So, Miranda,
Yeah.
let me put you in the hot seat. Can you give us some background on where you were born and what schools did you attend?
Okay, born in Oakland, very proud of it. I'm the only person in my family who has probably stayed here. I'm one of six kids, and went to local schools here in Oakland, Skyline High School. That's where I kind of got the theater bug. And then I majored in theater arts at San Francisco State and did that, dropped out, did theater in the community and other places, and then went back to school and majored in broadcast communication arts, as they called it in those days, at San Francisco State. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but when did you realize that using your voice would lead you to radio? How did that happen?
Wow, how did that happen? It had nothing to do with radio. I mean, people have always commented on my voice from the time I was a very small child. I had a big voice and a little tiny body, and I didn't talk very much because people would stare at me and I didn't know why they were staring. My voice doesn't sound as feminine as it does now, but as a child, it was very hoarse sounding, very deep. And I used to talk like that as a little girl. So, I can think, but you know what? It's really amazing. I can think back to 5th grade. Back in those days, the Oakland schools used to have concerts where all the elementary schools would come together and they would broadcast it on the radio. And it was the classical station because in those days, we all sang folk music or popular music, and there would be choirs of kids singing. My voice had to change. I could not sing with the sopranos because I spoke so deeply. I was lower than even the boys whose voices hadn't changed yet. So one teacher had the bright idea to let me be the narrator.
Nice.
And this teacher was very special because she knew I was struggling trying to figure out how not to make my voice stand out because it was so deep trying to sing with them. Now, trust me, I come from a musical family, but when I get to school, I was really shy. So that teacher said, how about if you are the narrator, right? So I said, okay, what's a narrator? She explained and told me that I get to announce the songs.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow.
Now, how old were you again?
10.
Wow.
10. And so this was broadcast. As I think back, I didn't know what KKHI even was, but it was a classical station here in the Bay Area. So I stood on a big wooden box, and there was a huge microphone that came from the ceiling. It was one of those big old-fashioned ribbon mics. And I had no fear narrating the script that she gave me. I didn't know that had anything to do with radio, but as I think back, your destiny, you know, I had no idea radio would be in my destiny. That was my first touch with radio.
Wow, what a beautiful story. Isn't it funny? They say that if you pay attention to kids and really watch what they do and what they love, they show you what they will be.
Yeah.
But I don't think we always pay attention to that. So
I was so nervous doing anything else because I was kind of shy. I was shy at school, not at home, but definitely shy at school. And I was not afraid. And that's the part that blew me away. I was normally afraid to do anything, but I was not afraid at all. I felt like that teacher it was something just for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, had you ever, once you got in the radio and your career became what it was, were you able to connect back with this teacher at all?
I was trying to find her and I couldn't find her. I asked a lot of the older teachers who were teaching and they all heard of her, they all knew her, but they couldn't locate her because she was a traveling music teacher.
Okay.
And she would travel from school to school and a lot of them knew her. And she just had this gift for listening. She would put her ear to my voice and I wouldn't talk. And she asked me to stay in after recess because she wanted to hear me sing. Now, she had no idea that, like I say, I come from a very musical family. I have one sister who's an opera singer. At that time, she was in college. She's a coloratura. I have another brother. Everybody plays instruments. I studied voice. But when I got to school, That's
funny. But you were able
But I
to
have
use
contacted a lot of my old teachers in the past. I've
Okay.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, she would have been a jewel, man. That would have been a wonderful reunion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mentioned some of the radio stations you worked for, like KSOL, KDIA, 102.9, KBLX, KKSF. What are some of the memorable and worst experiences you've had?
Well, all of them are memorable, even the worst. But I want to tell you off the top, everything that I have done has been a total surprise to me. And every station had its own, I guess it's easier to talk about the bad experience than they are to talk about the good one. So many were good and creative and fun. So beautiful. Every day was an adventure. Every day, when I first stepped into KSOL, which is actually KSOL was not my first. I interned at KMEL before it was Camel. I mean, when it was Camel. And so when I walked into that station, I was an evening, they used to have us do surveys over the phone back in those days. How corny was that? But a very well-known guy in the music business who ended up making KMEL the station it was, and then going on and working at records. He was over the interns. And so he said to me, Miranda, you've always been a very wonderful person to work with. If you ever think about doing something, I will always give you a recommendation. You can always count on me. And at that point in his career, he wasn't a manager or anything. So I just thought it was so cool how creative people were working in this industry. And it was very much like theater. So walking into KMEL, and there was music going on, and there was always a celebrity coming through for an interview. And although we were in little cubicles in the back, we could watch these artists coming up. Janet Jackson was coming up. She had just done her first album. She wasn't Janet Jackson. She was very, very shy. I saw Luther Vandross after he lost weight the first time. So it was very, like I say, very much like theater. There was always something that people were working on, and people were so nice. They were so interested in each other. So the celebrities that popped through, and then going to KSOL was like, man, this is African-American format. African-Americans coming through. There was music I grew up listening to, the station I grew up listening to. And everyone, like I say, was interested in your success. Coming in there, entry level, I was a promotions assistant. So everyone was interested in, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Get in here and let us know, what you're good at. And oh yeah, this new girl, but you had to come to work every day at KSOL dressed, because you never could tell when you were in the trades or whether you want to go to lunch with some artist who was handsome and you're going to be in the pictures. So that part was so exciting.
Yes.
The work was exciting. The work, it was like I say, it was like theater. It was planning. Promotions was in the middle. You had programming on this side, taking care of what's on the air, and you had sales on the other side, taking care of the money, the advertising. And promotions was in the middle to marry the two, to make sure that that it was still in keeping with the station's format. But on the other side, the commerce had to happen. So you had to make those clients happy and come up with promotions that they would be, hey, yeah, I want my brand to be involved with this. So that part I enjoyed. I worked with a very dynamic promotions director she's my best friend to this very day. We weren't friends while we worked. We got to be friends afterwards. But yeah, there was always so much to do. And let's see, as I think back, I worked at KDIA, which was a heritage station that I grew up. It was the R&B station. It was the station that African Americans could count on to give us information about voting and civil rights. And we could, if there was going to be a civil rights activist coming to the Bay Area, they were coming there first. If there was a Martin Luther King going to speak somewhere, they were the station where the Black folks got the word to go, as well as the religious side of it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I remember my mother every morning, she would listen on Sunday morning to their gospel station. And I was like, wow, I'm working at this working here where, and they had gospel going on, but Lord, there was the right way, the wrong way, and I'm not going to use the word I normally use, but I will say the ghetto way.
You're going to have you got some explaining to do.
Yes, I'm not going to, well, I'll put it this way. There's a way to learn how to swim. And there's some places where you'll learn, where they will teach you how to hold your breath first and what form to use, to hold you up, let you learn how to float. And then there's some places that will say, okay, this is the right way. There's some places that will say, learning how to swim is the dog pedal. Okay, there's the right way, there's the wrong way, and the ghetto way will be, I'm going to push you in and see if you don't go to the bottom.
Okay. Sink or swim, right?
Yes. So, but still, you learn from that too. KDIA
sink
gave
or
me
swim,
the first opportunity. Yeah. They gave me the first opportunity to go on the air.
Okay.
So I was public affairs director, hired for public affairs director. With that position came a 30-minute talk show. So that was my opportunity to be on air. However, I had never gone on air except for maybe in college. Didn't know how to operate the board, anything. And so at that station, the general manager, who I grew up listening to, said, I'm going to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. You just get your guest. You just make sure you have your show organized, your theme music and everything. I'm going to help you operate the board. Da, 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 da. Okay, I had my guest. Here it was, 5:30. 5:45.
He didn't show
up. No
person
here to help me. The gospel lady who was on prior to that on Saturday morning, she said, well, baby, I got to go. Huh? I got to go. I signed off at 6 o'clock. You on. And I was trying to let my guests act like, this wasn't the first time I was on the radio. Everything's going to work out fine. I don't know even what button to hit. She told me, okay, that's the button for your microphone. That's your theme music. And don't miss the commercials. Soon the commercial's over, you got to come on. That was that way. I learned.
Oh my, but you learned.
I learned. I actually had to end up doing 2 jobs there. And once I got there, they fired the promotions director. So I had to do public affairs and promotions there. And one thing that happened that I was unexpected, like every day, was that I got to cover the elections. I actually got to go out and cover the city elections. And I had my little press pass. That was unexpected. So, you know, I learned to don't say no.
Right.
Don't say no, I can't do that. Yeah. So yeah, there were surprises. The worst thing that happened was my payroll checks bouncing there. That was the worst thing to happen.
Oh.
And I can be honest because these stations don't exist anymore. But yep, that was one of the worst things that happened. That was probably the thing.
Well, yeah, that's pretty bad.
But
that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. But it got fixed, right?
Yeah. It took a lot to get fixed. It took a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It came at a time when I had school loans and all this. It didn't come at a good time.
Oh, wow.
Yep. But I learned so much. I learned the value of how it's important to know how a company is run. It's important to know when you're starting out in the business, you want to learn how to do a lot of things. You want opportunity. And at that time in my life, I wasn't all that young, but fairly young enough to realize that some things are an opportunity and some things are bad business. Know the difference between good business and bad business, and how you want to be treated in the business.
Right. So tell me this, what about, you and I worked at KKSF radio together. We didn't work there together. I was there before you. And you and I didn't connect until afterwards. But first, I want you to tell about your relationship with the station. KKSF 103.7 FM. Baby, tell them about it.
That was a blessing. Working at KKSF was an absolute